Donnie and Dolly, the team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Sam Spence, that's what I'm talking about. All of our guests today, including Ross Tucker, standing by, brought to you by the Waddling Dog Pub, one of Victoria's favorite local pubs. Located 10 minutes from the ferry terminal, the two-time #1 pub in Victoria invites you to see why they are a go-to watering hole. The Waddling Dog Pub, the best place for all of your Canucks and NHL action with extended hours, so you don't have to miss any of the action. Come, sit, and stay at the Waddling Dog. Just before we get to Ross Tucker, we take you back to this past weekend and the scene in Philadelphia, Army versus Navy. There you go. You get the idea. 2017, Army over Navy in double overtime. We're joined now by Ross Tucker of the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Westwood One, and CBS Sports. We do this every year. Get you to wax eloquent about the experience in Philadelphia. You were there, Army versus Navy. What was it like?
Yeah, I guess I have a question for you guys first before I dive into it. Do you guys take as much pride in your military as the United States does?
No.
And do you talk about it as much? Like, is there any equivalent in Canada to like the Army Navy game in the United States?
No, I don't think so.
No.
We don't have it. No.
You don't really have something like that. Look, it's my favorite day of the year. I'll tell you a couple different reasons why. One of which is it's rare and unique to be in a stadium that's exactly half for one team and half for the other.
Yeah.
So that creates a pretty cool dynamic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then one other college event is it mandatory that every single member of the student body's there. So you have every midshipman from Navy, that's 4,500.
Mm-hmm.
Every cadet from Army, that's another 4,500. And so just those 9,000 kids in the corners of the end zone provide so much energy. Then you have the flyovers, the march on, the whole deal. And then the game itself is just really, really special. I think almost especially this year because neither team was going to a bowl game. So for all the seniors out there, maybe except for one or two that might get a shot in the NFL, it's the last time they're ever playing football. Last time they're ever playing football. I mean, the seniors for Army stood on that field forever after the game, taking pictures with the scoreboard behind them. And now that I'm 43, I can just picture those guys in their office someday, corporate. That's going to be the picture, like in their office, like on their wall. That is the game. You know, Michigan, Ohio State, the other games are great. Don't get me wrong. But those guys are going to the NFL. Those guys are trying to go to the college football playoff, and they all are. They already know who their agents are. It's just different.
Yeah. Yeah, and this was the first time, you tweeted this out, the first time, incredibly, given the history of the game, that it's gone to overtime, double overtime, and I mentioned the score, Army over Navy 2017. Hey, before we get to Kyler Murray, I want to get your take on Tom Brady on the weekend. I know we talk about Tom Brady a lot, but this is a different angle. Do you have a problem with Tom signing game balls for 49ers players after the 49ers beat the Bucs on the weekend?
I'm a little surprised that he signed a ball that he threw an interception on.
Yeah.
That surprised me a little bit. But then think about that on some level, right? Like, this guy, you are that famous. You are that well known that NFL players come up to you and ask you to autograph the ball that they intercepted because it's going to be a keepsake for them forever that they intercepted a ball with you. I mean, that's pretty wild, right? It's pretty amazing. You know, I actually have a regret. Now that I look back on it, I don't know that I was ever in a picture with Brady when we were both on the Patriots.
Really?
You know, even if it was practice or, you know, before a game, something That would have been nice to have. That would have been a pretty nice keepsake. Hey, there's me playing with the greatest football player that's ever lived. Like, that would have been nice. I mean, I know what happened, and I can still tell people about it, but I kind of regret that. I wish I didn't need him to sign I don't need a signed ball or anything, but just a picture of me standing next to him or snapping him the ball would have been nice.
Yeah, your sister is probably disappointed about that, right?
Very. I told you that story,
Yes.
haven't I? Very.
Yes. Yeah. She was excited that you played with handsome Tom Brady. Hey, Ross, Kyler Murray last night, Patriots end up beating his Cardinals 27-13. He goes out early with what looks like a torn ACL. I'm not a doctor, you're not a doctor, but what does that mean for a quarterback who depends so much on his legs?
Well, interestingly, torn ACLs aren't thought of nearly as bad as they used to be, especially if it's only an ACL and not other things associated with it. But I immediately think of a guy like J.K. Dobbins, who hasn't been the same since his torn ACL, or David Bakhtiari. And I think it still is a major issue. And I talked about this on today's Ross Tucker football podcast. I'm so happy that he got the contract in the offseason. You know, some people would say to you, well, he'd still get a good contract, and he probably would, but would it be quite that good? And what would he be thinking right now? What would he be thinking right now if he hadn't gotten that life-altering contract yet and he tore his ACL? I know what he's thinking right now. He's thinking, thank goodness I got that contract, and I got the over $100 million guaranteed.
Ross, I want to ask you about Brock Purdy. Your thoughts? He goes in there, last pick in the draft. Everyone's thinking, what's going on with this guy? Pretty good effort in your eyes?
Thought it was a pretty good effort, Rick.
Ooh,
I saw your tweet.
Bang.
I saw your tweet. Yeah.
Why did I think of that?
The funniest part about the tweet, and hopefully you guys saw this, I said, let me be the first to make the joke that Brock looks pretty good.
Pretty good.
The amount of people that replied to that saying, you're not the first, man. Lots of people have made that joke. Like, dude, really? Like, as if I really thought I was the first, that I would tweet, let me be the first.
Exactly.
Like, come on. You just got double played, playa. What are you even doing? But then it looks like a bad reflection on me. Like, they think I'm that stupid that I really thought I was the first, and that I'm that lame that I would pull like a Rick move and say, let me be the first to point out.
Yeah.
At some point, it backfires on me. Look, I think he looks good.
Yeah.
I know this much. He adds a little bit of a running element.
Yes.
He adds a little mobility, which I know they wanted because Jimmy doesn't have it. Jimmy doesn't have the mobility. That's a major positive. He can run for a couple first downs. He can run for a touchdown. So far, so good.
They're in Seattle Thursday. It's a big one. We don't know if Purdy's going to play. He's injured. I mean, the 49ers could be down to their fourth quarterback this season. What about the Seahawks? 3 out of the last 4 weeks, Ross, they keep losing. Carolina, 224 yards rushing. The Seahawks can't stop the run. They're 31st in the league. What's going on there?
It's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. And considering they have like Woolen at corner, I'm surprised that they can't stuff the box and slow these teams down. It's not like Carolina has the greatest O-line in the world, or it was Derrick Henry or one of these running backs running them over. I mean, Dante Foreman, Chuba Hubbard, even Speedy Blackshear. It's a bad look for the Seahawks. Really hard way to win. I know people say, oh, it's not that big a deal anymore if a team runs the ball. You just can't give up explosive plays. I don't know. Seems like a really hard way to win a game if the other team can run it down your throat. And Pete Carroll knows that. That's always been Pete Carroll's philosophy, is to be the team running the ball down the other team's throat.
Yep.
Hey, back to the Patriots and Cardinals, Ross. Are you a fan of Mac Jones' body language, especially in his dealings with Matt Patricia?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm surprised that Mac is like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know where it's coming from. He's pretty young.
Yeah.
In his career to be treating anyone like that. sometimes these guys have a really good rookie year and they think they're more or better than they really are. Not a big fan of it. That said, I'm not really a big fan of Matt Patricia's play calling or the amount of shotgun they're using, the lack of play action. Not a fan of that.
Yeah. What's worse? His body language or Matt Patricia's play calling?
I would say Mac Jones' body language, because that is something that he can control. Patricia is obviously doing the best he can. He's just not very good at it.
Okay, one more. Do you want to talk about my front page story?
What do you think? Of course I do.
I'm going to say.
Of course I do.
I'm going to say
12
yes.
days away from Christmas.
See if you
and
can
some
work.
of you guys that are watching.
Yeah.
You still, like Rick, still haven't gotten loved ones in your life a gift. You don't know what to get them. You're not creative. It's okay. Most of us aren't. Just go to myfrontpagestory.com. It looks like it's on the cover of the newspaper. Everybody that gets one is thrilled. It's framed, beautiful. Your mom or your dad or your wife, whatever. Give them the front page treatment they deserve. It's so money, it's not even funny to say, I want to do something special for you. So I had a story written about you. Bang! That just sounds so good. Then they hang it up in the house forever. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. Trust me on this. myfrontpagestory.com.
I was going to ask you to work the word "purdy" into that answer.
Pretty good.
But that was pretty good. Okay. Thanks, Ross.
Nice.
Next week.
Nice. See you guys.
You bet. Ross Tucker, the Ross Tucker Football Podcast. This Brock Purdy, this term, Mr. Irrelevant.
Last pick in the
I
draft.
get it. Ha ha. It's funny. All of that. Wouldn't you like to be drafted?
Oh, exactly.
In the National Football League?
Exactly.
It's such an insult. And look what he's doing right now. I know he's got some injury issues at this point, but he's been really impressive. Yeah. I wouldn't mind, and some people might say this, that I already am Mr. Irrelevant, but in terms of the NFL Mr. Irrelevant, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with being drafted. I think that's an insult. I think they got to get rid of that.
Yeah, and he had 2 touchdown passes, 1 TD run against the Bucs. He was fine.
Okay, what's next? We'll update the poll question. Actually, we'll introduce the poll question. That's next. Donnie and Dolly will deal with the poll question. Donnie and Dolly, the team, on check.